Coronation Street teased that the past is never buried, not when the scars still bleed beneath the surface. The air on Coronation Street had begun to settle after the chaos surrounding Gary Windus's attack. For a while, it looked like calm might return to his household. Maria clung to hope, playing the doting wife beside Gary's hospital bed, bringing meals, fluffing pillows, pressing his hand gently in hers, as though the consistency of her love might tether him to some truth neither of them wanted to say aloud. But behind Maria's eyes, doubt flickered like a persistent flame. The more she replayed the sequence of events, the more she questioned what Gary hadn't told her. She could no longer ignore it. Something about Lou's presence in their lives felt too personal, too entwined with Gary's pain. Gary knew. He knew Maria wasn't the kind of woman who would accept half-truths. So, with a shaky breath and the weight of 1,000 regrets pressing against his ribs, he told her. About the kiss. Lou. The kiss that should have never happened, but did. The kiss that changed everything. Maria went still. She didn't shout. She didn't sob. Instead, her silence filled the room like a storm cloud before a downpour. It wasn't the kiss itself that devastated her. It was the implication, the iceberg beneath the tip. She knew her husband, and she knew when he wasn't telling her the full story. Is that all it was, Gary? A kiss? Her voice was barely above a whisper, and somehow that made it worse. Gary flinched. He hesitated just a second too long. That second was enough. Maria stood up, clutching her coat, her face pale. I need space, she said, her voice cracking. I need to figure out if I believe you. Or if I believe what I already know. Gary didn't try to stop her. Maybe a part of him believed he didn't deserve to. Hours passed. Maria paced the small flat she once shared with Gary, her thoughts a whirlwind of suspicion, love, and rage. She thought about the late nights Gary had come home with excuses. The calls he stepped away to take. The flicker in his eyes when Lou's name came up. The kind of intimacy you couldn't fake, Maria knew. Women always knew. But just when she thought she could breathe, the phone rang. Gary had discharged himself from hospital. She rushed back to the house, furious and terrified all at once, only to find Gary trying to prepare a cup of tea, wincing with every movement. Are you out of your mind? She snapped. You nearly died and now you're, what, playing house? I needed to be home, Gary said, his voice low. I couldn't lie there waiting. Not while you're out here thinking I'm some kind of monster. The argument ignited quickly, a tangle of broken trust and buried resentment. Words flew like arrows, none sharper than the ones neither of them said aloud, that maybe something really had happened between Gary and Lou, something more than a kiss. Then Liam walked in. He saw the tension immediately. And, like most children caught between silence and suspicion, he cracked a joke. Didn't think you two still argued. Thought you were too old for that. Besides, it's kinda funny that a tough guy like Gary got beat up by a woman. The air in the room thickened. Gary froze. Maria's breath caught. It should have been funny. It was meant to be. But it wasn't. Not to Gary. She didn't beat me, he said quietly. She blindsided me. Hit me from behind. The defensiveness in his tone didn't match his words. He sounded wounded. Ashamed. Later, when Liam had gone to bed, Maria sat beside Gary on the sofa. She tried to explain. It's not the joke that hurts, is it? It's that you think he sees you as weak. Less than. Gary turned his face to the wall. I spent my whole life proving I wasn't that kid anymore. Not the kid who got shoved around. But now. I can't even stand in my own house without wincing. Maria's worry deepened. She could see it clearly now. The beginnings of something darker. Something Gary didn't understand yet. Maybe trauma. Maybe shame. Maybe the first symptoms of a deeper spiral. And then came the news that shattered what little peace remained. Lou pregnant. In prison. Maria dropped the paper when she read it. Her heart nearly stopped. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Some twisted rumor. But it wasn't. It was confirmed. Gary didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. Maria couldn't breathe. Tell me it's not yours. Gary's silence said everything. Maria backed away, as if he were a stranger. How could you? How could you do that to me? To Liam? To us? Gary stammered, tried to explain that he hadn't known Lou would get pregnant. That it had been a mistake, just once, a moment of weakness, a night he didn't even want to remember. But it didn't matter. Not to Maria. The betrayal was too sharp, too real. She left that night. Gary was left alone in their home, now echoing with emptiness. Maria took Liam with her, needing time to think. To shield her son. To keep herself from drowning. Gary didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He stared at the ceiling and wondered when everything had started to fall apart. Was it the first time he lied to Maria? Or was it the first time he convinced himself Lou didn't mean anything? The street buzzed with gossip. People whispered. Carla tried to reach out. So did Sarah. But Gary didn't want pity. He wanted the past to go back where it belonged, buried. Forgotten. Erased. But Lou wouldn't allow that. Even from prison, she had power. Her child, his child, now bound them forever. Maria, shattered and raw, looked at the future and saw only fractures. Her marriage in ruins. Her trust demolished. And the knowledge that Gary had betrayed her not only with his heart, but with his body. There was no forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And yet, deep in her heart, a question she couldn't ignore, was she willing to destroy her family completely? Or could something be salvaged from the wreck? Maria stayed at her mother's place, the flat quiet apart from the occasional hum of the kettle, or Liam's feet padding across the floor. She avoided checking her phone. Every time it lit up with Gary's name, she let it ring. The pain was too fresh, too sharp. Her mind replayed his silence over and over, his failure to deny Lou's pregnancy, his inability to look her in the eye and promise it wasn't his. Liam, sensing the shift in atmosphere, grew quiet too. He didn't ask questions, not directly. But he noticed everything. He noticed how Maria smiled less, how she left plates untouched, how her voice dropped when someone mentioned Gary. One evening, he finally spoke. Is Gary still sick, Mum? Or are you mad at him for something else? Maria turned to him, heart cracking. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. She could barely say the words to herself. We're just having some grown-up problems. But I promise you, we both love you very much. That will never change. Liam nodded, accepting it for now. But Maria knew the truth wouldn't stay hidden forever. And when it did come out, it would reshape the way Liam saw Gary. The way he saw family. Meanwhile, back at their house, Gary sat in the kitchen surrounded by silence. The walls felt too close. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the setting sun reminded him of what he had destroyed. He tried to imagine Maria's face when she found out about the baby. He couldn't. All he saw was the moment she walked out, her back turned, her shoulders tight with betrayal. He thought about going to see her, begging in person. But he couldn't face her. Not when he didn't even know what to say. What was there to say? That he'd betrayed her with a woman who now carried his child. That Lou had clawed her way into his life, manipulated him, and left a permanent mark. He hated Lou more than ever now. And yet, he knew it wasn't just her fault. He had crossed the line. And that mistake was alive. Growing. Lou, still locked behind bars, wasn't silent either. From her cell, she sent letters, not to Gary, but to Maria. She knew how to hit where it hurt. Her words were cold, calculated, filled with subtle venom masked as concern. I never wanted to ruin your marriage. But sometimes, things happen for a reason. You deserve someone who tells you everything. Not a man who hides in silence. Maria read the letter once. Then again. Then ripped it into pieces. But the damage was done. Lou's pregnancy wasn't just a scar now. It was a weapon she was wielding with precision. Maria returned to work, trying to find comfort in routine. But even in the salon, she felt watched, whispered about. Evelyn gave her sympathetic glances. Nina avoided the topic entirely. Carla tried to distract her with business talk. But none of it dulled the ache. One afternoon, she found herself standing in front of her and Gary's house, unsure why she'd walked there. The door hadn't changed. The curtains were still the ones she picked out. But inside, it wasn't home anymore. She knocked anyway. Gary opened the door, stunned. Maria. I'm not here to fix anything, she said. I just want the truth. All of it. Gary stepped aside, wordless. Inside, he poured them both tea, hands shaking slightly. And then, for the first time, he told her everything. The kiss. The night. The way Lou had manipulated him, twisted his guilt, and preyed on his confusion. He admitted that he should have told Maria from the start. I was ashamed. I still am. But I need you to know. I didn't love her. I don't. I love you. Maria listened, unmoving. But you slept with her. Gary nodded slowly. Yes. Once. Maria felt the words fall like stones into her chest. Heavy. Cold. Final. She stood up. I just needed to hear it from you. Now I know. Gary didn't stop her this time. He knew this wasn't a conversation that ended in hugs or forgiveness. It was a reckoning. Later that week, Maria sat with Liam in the park. He was kicking a ball lazily, unaware of how the world beneath him had shifted. Maria watched him closely, realizing she couldn't protect him from everything. But she could protect him from lies. She would have to tell him. One day soon. Gary, meanwhile, received a message that Lou wanted to speak with him from prison. He hesitated. He wanted nothing more than to cut ties. But he knew he couldn't ignore her forever. Especially now. He made the visit. Lou, seated behind the glass, looked different. Softer. But Gary wasn't fooled. Why did you send that letter to Maria? Lou smiled. She deserved the truth. You weren't going to give it to her. You just want to destroy what's left. No, Gary. I want to claim what's mine. Our child. The words sent a chill down his spine. You'll never use this baby against me again. Lou's eyes gleamed. That depends on you. Step up, or stay out. But this isn't going away. Gary left, fists clenched. He knew Lou would fight for control. And he had no idea what rights she would have from prison, or what her intentions truly were. But one thing was clear, the child was real. And that meant consequences. Weeks passed. Maria kept her distance. Gary tried to re-establish a connection with Liam, but the boy had picked up on the tension. He asked fewer questions now. But his silences were louder. Maria consulted a solicitor. Not because she wanted a divorce, yet, but because she needed to understand her rights. Her options. Her future. Gary, alone in the house, began therapy. He needed to understand why he'd allowed himself to fall so far. Why he'd betrayed the person who loved him most. Lou, meanwhile, began causing problems from behind bars. She made calls. Planted doubts. Spoke to tabloids. Rumors swirled that Gary had attacked her first, that he had secrets darker than anyone knew. The press attention only deepened Maria's humiliation. Eventually, Maria returned to Gary, not to reconcile, but to set boundaries. I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will. But Liam needs stability. And I won't let Lou take that from him. Gary nodded. Whatever you need. I'll follow your lead. They weren't a couple anymore. Not in the way they used to be. But they were still tethered, by Liam, by history, by the long road ahead. And somewhere in the quiet between them, a decision waited to be made, whether to rebuild from the ashes, or to walk away for good. In the world of Coronation Street, no secret stays buried. And the fallout from Gary's betrayal had only just begun.